My wife Katherine died in front of me, except she didn't. That wasn't her body they cremated, it was her twin sister's, and I knew it. I stood beside the casket and watched the flames consume a name that no longer belonged to the person living behind it. The woman crying on Philip's shoulder? That was Katherine. My Katherine. Not her sister Gabrielle. She faked her death, just to live a lie more convenient than the truth. I didn't expose her. I played along. Until I buried them all in the same delusion they thought would bury me. They said I lost my mind after my wife's death, that I couldn't tell the difference between Katherine and Gabrielle, that I was obsessed, unstable, and disgusting, lusting after my dead wife's sister. The media called me a predator, strangers online tore my name apart. The worst part, they believed her, everyone did. It started small. A whisper at the office, a glare in the elevator, then came the messages. Creep. Widower freak. She's dead, move on. But I couldn't move on, not because I missed Katherine, because I knew she was alive. Living comfortably in my sister-in-law's skin, sleeping beside Philip, smiling at the cameras during Gabrielle's memorial. They said she was noble, a sister stepping in to support her grieving brother-in-law. They didn't know she was the one who'd orchestrated the funeral. I asked her once, quietly, behind the scenes, why she was doing this. She looked at me like I was a stranger. Jordan, I know you're hurting, but Gabrielle is gone. You can't keep projecting her onto me. I'm not her, I never was. I wasn't angry, not at first, I was broken. Until the day our son Leo asked me, Daddy, why does Mommy say she's not Mommy anymore? His little voice shattered something inside me. He still remembered the way she hummed lullabies at night, he still remembered her favorite perfume, but Katherine denied him, denied me, denied everything. And then, one night, someone found me in an alley. Face down, bleeding, stabbed by a man whose only words were, "You freak, stay away from her." That was the last thing I remembered. Until I opened my eyes again. Same hospital room, same sterile smell, same cold morning light. Except this time, I wasn't broken. This time, I was ready. I knew every lie Katherine would tell, every step she'd take, every manipulation she'd whisper into the world's ears. I knew when she'd fake the tears, when she'd reach for Philip's hand and claim to be Gabrielle, when she'd try to erase her own son and rewrite herself into another life. But this time, I would let her. I would let her think she had fooled me, let her spread the rumor that I was grieving too deeply to think straight. Let her plan her funeral again, let her touch the casket and call herself Gabrielle. And when the time came, I would burn the memory of Katherine alongside everything she loved. My silence would be the trap, and she'd walk right into it, smiling. They used to say we were the perfect couple, Jordan and Katherine, the architect and the brand strategist, calm, polished, reliable. We were the type people nodded at across dinner tables and envied behind closed doors. A house in the city, a 5-year-old son named Leo who loved toy rockets and dinosaurs. A quiet rhythm of life built on rituals, morning coffee, weekend grocery runs, shared glances at meetings. We were the image of stability. And for a while, I believed it too. But perfection was an illusion. One I was the last to stop believing in. Katherine had a twin, Gabriella. Identical in every feature, at least, to anyone who wasn't their husband. Where Katherine was composed and aloof, Gabriella was warmer, more impulsive, emotional. She was a university professor, more low profile than Katherine, but still sharp in her own right. The kind of person who'd leave flowers at your door and send a text to say, thinking of you. They shared DNA, but not the same soul. Gabriella was married to Philip, my brother-in-law. He had the kind of charisma that played well in boardrooms, always 3 steps ahead, always smiling a little too wide. Katherine always said he was too dramatic for her taste, but I'd catch them exchanging glances across dinner tables, subtle, measured, the kind of tension you don't notice until it's too late. Then the car crash happened. Or so it was said. I remember the morning like it's burned into my skin, a phone call, a soft knock, Katherine's trembling hands as she held Leo's tiny shoulders. "Sweetheart," she whispered, "your Aunt Gabriella is gone." There were tears in her eyes, red rims, shaky breaths, the kind of sorrow only a sister could know. Only it wasn't sorrow, it was performance. I noticed it at the hospital when they wheeled in the body. The woman on the stretcher was pale, her neck stiff under the sheet. Her arm slipped free for a C-cond, and I saw it, a crescent-shaped birthmark just under the left elbow. Gabriella never had that mark. Katherine did. I blinked, heart in my throat, as a nurse gently tucked the arm back under the sheet. I didn't say anything. Not yet. At the cremation, she stood beside me, her fingers wrapped around my wrist like an anchor. Her eyes were swollen, but her grip was steady. She looked straight ahead, never once glancing at the casket. Not the way a sister says goodbye. She was nervous, not grief-stricken, nervous. The others didn't see it, they never do. The twin switch is always romanticized in books and movies. No one wants to believe someone would burn their own identity just to start over in someone else's life. But I was her husband. I'd held her through storms, counted the freckles along her spine, memorized every inch of her breath. And the woman standing next to me, calling herself Gabriella, was Katherine. Leo knew too. Even at 5, children have instincts. "Daddy," he whispered one night as I tucked him in, "why does Mommy say she's not Mommy anymore?" I froze in place, my hand still on his blanket. He blinked at me with those soft brown eyes, identical to hers. "She smells the same," he added, "but her hugs feel different now." I didn't know how to answer him. That night, I stood in the hallway, listening as Katherine, Gabriella, talked to Philip in hushed tones. Her voice, once crisp and calculating, was now a syrupy melody. "He's still confused," she said. "But he'll come around. It's just grief." Philip chuckled. "You sure you're ready to play dead for this long?" "It's better than going back," she murmured. "You know how I felt in that house, with Jordan, with that life. They were lovers. I don't know when it started. Maybe before the crash, maybe years ago, maybe the moment Philip realized his wife was warm where Katherine was cold, and Katherine realized she could be Gabriella without the baggage of motherhood and marriage. But there was no doubt now. My wife had faked her death to be with my brother-in-law. And left her child without a mother. The worst part? She didn't flinch once. Leo cried for her in his sleep. He'd wake up calling Mommy, only to be told she was gone. And the woman standing in our living room, the woman with his mother's face, would kneel beside him and say, "I'm your aunt now, honey. Your mommy loved you very much." The first time she said it, I nearly vomited, but I played along, because I had to. Katherine didn't just betray our vows, she shattered the foundation beneath our lives. Her mother, who had always preferred Gabriella, now hailed Gabriella as the dutiful daughter for taking care of us. For being there for poor Jordan and Leo. She invited Philip over constantly, calling him son and pushing me to let go of my obsession. I watched Katherine act out her charade, cooking meals for Philip, sitting on the patio with him like a grieving sister-turned-companion. All while Leo sat alone in the corner, playing with the toy plane I bought him last Christmas, waiting for a mother who was right in front of him. But she never once looked at him the same. She touched his hair with hesitation, corrected him gently but distantly. Called him sweetheart like a stranger talking to someone else's child. Katherine was never soft, but once, she had at least been present. She used to brush Leo's hair in the mornings, hum when making his oatmeal, argue with me about how many bedtime stories were too many. It had been functional love, but it was love. Now, it was performance. For everyone else, she was Gabriella, the ennoble, grieving widow's sister, stepping in to help a broken family. But for me and Leo, she was the ghost of a woman who hadn't died. Just disappeared. And Philip? He played the role too. Mourning Gabriella in public, but in private, he let his hand rest on Katherine's knee just a little too long. Let his eyes linger when she walked across the room in her sister's clothes. They thought I was blind. But I saw everything. And I remembered everything from the life that came before this second chance. The knife in the alley, the slander, the silence. Not again. I would let her live her lie, and I would light the match under it when she least expected it. The switch became permanent the moment Katherine stopped responding to Katherine. We were standing in the living room. Leo was upstairs, asleep. She wore Gabriella's grey sweater, her sister's delicate gold bracelet, even sprayed the same perfume Gabriella used, but her eyes, her posture, those were still Katherine, familiar, cold, razor-edged in the way only she could be. I made tea, she said, placing the cup in front of me without meeting my gaze. I picked it up, eyes unmoving. You forgot the cinnamon. Gabriella always added cinnamon. She blinked, just once, then smiled. You're imagining things. Maybe it was someone else. It wasn't. She tilted her head. Jordan, she said softly, I know losing my sister has changed you. But I'm not her. I'm Gabriella. Please stop doing this. There it was, the first knife. Not the kind that drew blood, the kind that denied reality, slowly enough to make you doubt your own senses. You're my wife, I said. You think I don't know my own wife? Her smile didn't falter. Your wife is gone. I looked at her wrist. She was trying to cover the crescent birthmark now. A thin bracelet slipped over it just so. I saw it, Katherine. I saw you push her body into the cremation room. She set the teacup down with a soft clink. I understand, you're grieving, I won't take offense. That night, she told Philip I had accused her of being her dead sister. The next morning, he was at my door. Jordan, he began with mock sympathy, I get it, you're overwhelmed, but Gabriella's trying to help you move on, and you're making her uncomfortable. I stared at him. You mean Katherine? He took a deep breath like he was preparing a script. That kind of talk. It's disturbing. You've been saying strange things, about her identity, about what happened to Leo's mother. It's not healthy. It's not true, I replied flatly. You know it. He smiled. But his eyes were sharp. Do I? Within a week, I found myself sleeping on the couch. The guest room was too full, apparently. Then came the gentle suggestion that maybe I should stay at a hotel. For my mental health. Then Katherine, no, Gabriella, filed a report with the housing board that I was refusing to vacate the premises left to her late sister's name. The name she now wore. And somehow, the paperwork all matched. She had access to Gabriella's ID, her mail, her bank account. She submitted death certificates under Katherine's name to the municipal office, quietly, precisely, methodically, just like she handled business takeovers. I was legally evicted from my own home. Leo cried for days. I could hear him from outside the door, calling Daddy, where are you? Before Philip's voice cut in with a calm, fake cozy tone. Your daddy needs a break, kiddo, he'll come around. I went to see my mother-in-law. She answered the door with a frown. You again? I want to see Leo. You shouldn't confuse the boy. Gabriella's doing her best to raise him, and you're just making things worse. She's not Gabriella, you know that. She folded her arms. I don't know what nonsense you're spewing, but my daughter is dead, and the woman in my house is Gabriella, that's all there is. You're choosing her lie over your own grandson. My grandson has a roof over his head, doesn't he? I clenched my fists. Does he have his mother? She slammed the door in my face. I walked away with rage tightening my ribs, but I didn't scream, I didn't fight. Instead, I went to the city records office with a copy of the death certificate, the one declaring Katherine Lynn deceased in a fatal crash. The clerk barely blinked as she processed the paperwork. Are you sure you want to finalize this? Yes, I said. Identity, terminated. Status, deceased. Social number, retired. Katherine Lynn no longer existed. Then I sent her resignation to her company's board, signed under Katherine's name. The HR department accepted it, processed it, and sent a polite email expressing condolences. Within days, Katherine, now Gabriella, showed up at my temporary apartment with a tight smile. You had no right. You're not Katherine, remember? I said, sipping coffee. Just taking care of some old admin files. Her smile twisted. You think you're clever? No, I said. Just thorough. I closed the door in her face. That same week, my father's gold heirloom watch disappeared. So did the antique locket that had belonged to Leo's grandmother. Katherine had keys to our old storage unit. She'd cleaned it out and claimed the items were part of Gabriella's shared estate. She even began selling shares from the family company, my father's company, arguing that Gabriella had inherited partial control as part of Katherine's will. The will she forged. I received a formal notice. Gabriella Lynn, as the next of kin and caretaker of Leo, was requesting primary guardianship. On the grounds that the father, me, was emotionally unstable and living separately due to self-isolation and unresolved grief disorder. She included screenshots, Staged photos of me shouting at the door, emails taken out of context, a record of therapy appointments I'd had after her death. It was strategic, brutal, perfectly Katherine. I didn't respond. Not directly. Instead, I filed a formal statement with the company CEO, attached with surveillance clips showing Katherine, before her supposed death, signing internal contracts as herself well after Gabriella's crash. I laid out every inconsistency, sent a request to reinstate the forensic review of her ID. They started investigating. She started spiraling, but still, she wore the mask. Gabriella was now hosting client dinners, wearing Gabriella's gentle smile, her soft voice, her sympathy card. She walked through boardrooms like a widow turned savior. Even Philip praised her in public speeches. I couldn't have survived this tragedy without her strength. Leo began stuttering in school. He wet the bed. The counselor called me, worried about his confusion. He keeps insisting his aunt is actually his mom, she said. He seems deeply unsettled. I nodded slowly. So am I. Katherine had always been cold, but I hadn't realized how replaceable she saw us, me, Leo, our life. The moment the opportunity came, she traded her name for someone else's, traded motherhood for freedom, traded love for convenience. She didn't even hesitate, but now she was trapped, because the moment she chose to live as Gabriella, I made sure Katherine died for good. Some nights I sat outside the old house, just far enough to be unseen. Light spilled from the windows like nothing had changed. Laughter echoed through the walls that used to keep our family safe. But it wasn't family anymore, it was performance. Katherine, or Gabriella, as she insisted, had turned our living room into a stage. Company partners came and went, clients toasted to her courage and selflessness. Philip, always with a wineglass in hand, hovered at her side like a proud husband, guiding guests with one arm and holding her waist with the other. Once, I saw them dancing in the living room, my son sitting on the stairs, knees pulled to his chest, toy rocket forgotten beside him. That was the night something in me cracked, but didn't shatter. I returned to my apartment and sat on the floor for hours. I stared at Leo's drawing taped to the wall, stick figures, big smiles, a sun with spiky rays. Me and Mommy and Daddy, he'd written, with shaky letters and the wrong number of fingers. He still drew her, still drew us, as if erasing her name didn't erase her from his heart. The next time I saw him, he hugged me so tightly his little fingers trembled. Daddy, I saw Mommy kiss Uncle Philip. My throat closed, I bent down to him. What did she say when you asked? She said she's not Mommy anymore, he whispered. She said I was remembering wrong. I didn't have an answer, just held him and nodded. Later, when I asked him what he missed most about her, he said, the way she used to tickle me in the mornings, and the way she made the pancakes with faces. His voice fell to a whisper. But Auntie doesn't do that. Auntie forgets a lot. That night I cried, quietly, in the bathroom with the water running. I hadn't cried since the day I saw Katherine push her sister's body into the cremation chamber. Not until Leo reminded me what was stolen, not just from me, but from him. Still, I didn't act. Not yet. Because this time, I was patient, and patience was a blade. Katherine grew bolder. I received photos in the mail, a party at our company's retreat. Philip had his arm around her. Someone captioned it. Look who's glowing, widowhood becomes her. She wasn't grieving, she was thriving. Wearing Gabriella's skin like a custom-fit suit, slipping through every social crack untouched. Then came the visit. She showed up at my apartment unannounced. No call, no warning. She was in Gabriella's cardigan and scarf, but her perfume was Katherine's. The scent I remembered from years ago, a scent she hadn't worn since her death. Hi, she said softly. I brought Leo's coat, he left it. I didn't move from the doorway. You could have mailed it. She smiled and stepped inside anyway, brushing past me like she still had the right. The air changed. I watched her look around. She noticed the bare walls, the stack of legal files on the table, the worn futon in the corner. You're not doing very well, are you? She said gently. Depends on the angle, I replied. She turned to face me. You're so angry, still. You replaced me, replaced your son, replaced yourself. She stepped closer. I didn't replace anything, I just needed a fresh start. With Philip? Don't, she warned. I stayed quiet. Let the silence do the screaming. She took another step forward, her hand grazed my arm. You and I, we had something real once, before it got heavy. My body went rigid. Katherine, I said. She flinched. I'm not her, she murmured. You just flinched. She hesitated, then regained her composure. You're confused, you always were. Why are you really here? She leaned in. Because maybe I miss being Katherine sometimes, with you. The worst part was how soft her voice was, how genuine she sounded, how real she almost made it feel again. For a second, I almost stepped toward her, but then I remembered Leo. I'm not playing this game, I said coldly. You chose this lie, you stay in it. She pulled away slowly, the mask cracking just enough to show the frost underneath. You think you're so clever, Jordan, but people are starting to see how unstable you are. I hope they're looking closely. She left without another word. That night, I reached out to someone I hadn't spoken to in years, Ashley, a former co-worker and someone I once trusted before Katherine pushed her out. She picked up on the first ring. Jordan? I need your help. 2 days later, we met at a coffee shop near the firm. Ashley was sharper than ever. She leaned in after I told her everything. You're not crazy, she said. I always knew something was off about her, the way she cornered people, the way she'd smile right before she cut someone down. She took everything, I said. Leo, the house, the company shares, and no one believes me. I believe you, Ashley said. She helped me start building a case, quietly, carefully. She tracked inconsistencies in Katherine's company files. Dates signed under the wrong name, voice recordings from boardroom meetings where Katherine slipped up. She documented body language, changed speech patterns, a sudden shift in signature style, all the details most people overlook. We gathered them. Thread by thread. We pulled her image apart like a sweater unraveling at the seam. Leo's teachers began to notice too. He's regressing, one said. He talks about 2 moms, one who sings, one who scolds. Only one of them is real, I whispered. Meanwhile, Ashley arranged a quiet review at the company's compliance board. She had contacts, trust. She didn't let me get my hands dirty, she just fed the dominoes to gravity. Katherine kept playing her part, smiling at galas, hosting fundraisers with Philip. She even put Leo in a matching suit and posed for magazine photos. He looked stiff in all of them, tired, uncomfortable. My heart ached, but I didn't interfere, because I knew what came next. I would let the lie grow just a little taller, so the fall would be that much harder. It started with a whisper in the elevator. Did you hear about Jordan? By lunch, it was a headline in the company Slack group. A carefully leaked message disguised as concern. Senior consultant Jordan M. has been reported for stalking the GM's sister-in-law. Please be mindful of your interactions with him during the internal HR review. The HR manager didn't meet my eyes when she called me in. It's not a verdict, she said nervously. But someone filed a concern, anonymously. I already knew who it was. Katherine had finally pulled the public trigger, and Philip was right beside her, cocking the hammer. By the end of the day, the rumors weren't rumors anymore. Jordan's been following her. He called her Katherine in the middle of a board dinner. He's not over his wife's death, he's trying to replace her with the sister. Philip played his part well, a victim's relative, deeply concerned, quietly wounded. He walked the halls with that fake solemn look on his face, whispering to the new interns, he hasn't been right since she died. I tried to be supportive, but he's crossed too many lines. They made it look effortless. Until Ashley sent me a text, check your email, now. There was a folder, timestamps, screenshots, video clips. I opened the first one and hit play. Philip. At a beachside villa, 2 months before Gabriella's death, holding Katherine against a wall, laughing, whispering something into her ear. She pulled his face to hers like it was the last kiss on earth. Ashley's note was blunt. 2 months before the accident, she's wearing Gabriella's necklace already. He calls her Katherine in one of the clips. My hands trembled, not from shock, but from the sharp clarity that followed. This wasn't just betrayal, it was premeditated erasure. The next day, I arrived at work early, sat in the conference room, waited for the review panel to arrive. When he walked in, Katherine among them, posing as Gabriella in a soft mauve suit. I didn't stand. I just slid Ashley's drive across the table. Play it, I said. The room was quiet as the footage played. The date at the bottom corner of the screen was impossible to argue, the faces too clear, the audio too damning. Philip, laughing. You really think he won't notice? Katherine. He never sees what I don't want him to. Her voice, her real voice. Not the honeyed tone she used when pretending to be the grieving sister. This was Katherine, the planner, the executor, the cold-blooded strategist. The panel sat in silence when the video ended. Katherine's smile didn't crack, but her fingers tightened slightly on the table's edge. This is fabricated, she said, eyes flicking to Philip. He looked pale. I don't remember that day. It's edited. Ashley stepped into the room. Actually, I submitted the raw surveillance logs this morning, pulled from the security system of the villa property. Your names were on the guest book. The owners confirmed the stay. Silence. I stood. My wife is dead, I said, looking Katherine directly in the eyes. So either you're her sister, and you need to stay far away, or you're her, and you better confess before I bury your lie permanently. Her eyes narrowed, lips twitching just slightly. You're unwell, she said, to the room, not to me. This is obsession. Is it? I raised a folder. Because the hospital surveillance system flagged a suspicious visitor last week. Someone tried to enter my apartment complex at 2 a.m. using an old access card. When they were denied, they entered through the side lot. Security found them trying to open my door. I dropped 3 printed stills on the table, all showed Katherine in a dark hoodie, her face partially visible under the street lamp. Her bracelet was the same one she wore today. Philip's jaw tightened. You never told me about that. Katherine didn't reply. Ashley turned to the panel. As per company policy, identity manipulation, fraud, and professional misconduct are grounds for immediate suspension pending legal review. The HR manager finally spoke. We'll need to verify her legal ID. I stepped out of the room. I didn't need to watch her unravel. By that evening, an official internal memo was sent. Gabriella Lynn's identity is under legal dispute. Pending investigation, she will be placed on administrative leave. That night, I walked into my apartment to find Leo sitting on the couch, hugging his knees. She came again, he said. She stood outside and said I was her son, but, if she's not mommy, why does she cry like mommy? I sat beside him. Because even liars miss what they destroyed. Leo pressed his face into my chest and didn't say anything else. I scheduled the board meeting for a Friday morning, early enough that no one had time to prepare excuses, late enough in the week for the gossip to have marinated. Everyone was there. Department heads, legal counsel, Philip, Katherine, seated with her arms crossed in Gabriella's posture, as if sheer performance could save her now. I stood at the head of the long mahogany table and placed a single black folder down. No theatrics, no speech. I opened it. This is a resignation letter, I began, my voice level, submitted by Katherine Lynn 2 weeks after the car crash that supposedly killed her. It was signed with her legal name, time-stamped, processed by our HR software. I flipped the page. This is Gabriella Lynn's death certificate, filed on the day of the crash, verified by the Public Health Authority. The body was cremated under her name, the ashes were delivered by the woman who now claims to be Gabriella. A murmur swept through the room. Katherine's jaw clenched, but her face remained frozen. I dropped another sheet on the table. Here's a DNA test, ordered under court approval, taken from a toothbrush found in her apartment, compared with her known genetic markers. The results confirm the woman sitting beside Mr. Philip is Katherine Lynn, not Gabriella. Philip shifted in his chair. That's absurd. Anyone could fake those. Ashley spoke before I could. The test was processed by an independent federal lab, witnessed by 2 separate officers. I let the silence hang. Katherine finally spoke. Even if that were true, it doesn't prove intent. It doesn't prove fraud. I smiled. This, I said, holding up the final document, is a notarized statement from the landlord of a private property where Katherine and Philip stayed 3 weeks before Gabriella's death. During that stay, she was listed under her real name. Surveillance shows them entering together. Laughing, embracing, planning. Gasps. One board member leaned forward with narrowed eyes. Wait. You 2 were involved before Gabriella died? Philip raised his hands. No, I mean, yes, but it wasn't. Katherine said she wanted out, that she was unhappy with Jordan. We were trying to figure out what was best for everyone. You mean what was best for you? I said. More silence. I turned to legal. The company issued a death benefit payout under false pretenses. Philip assisted in misrepresentation. Katherine, while legally dead, accessed corporate assets under an alias. She also filed guardianship claims over a child while pretending to be his aunt. This qualifies as identity fraud, unlawful custody, and insurance fraud. The legal officer didn't blink. You're pressing charges? I nodded. Every last one. Katherine stood suddenly. I faked everything for us, she shouted, voice rising into panic. For me and Philip, for Leo, to give him a chance at a better life. No, I said coldly. You faked your death to escape love. You didn't want to mother. You didn't want to fight for your marriage. You wanted applause, sympathy, freedom. So you killed yourself on paper and buried us in that grave instead. Her lip quivered. You can't do this. I made everything work. I held your son together when you couldn't even. He's not yours anymore, I snapped. Guards entered the room quietly. The police followed seconds later. As Katherine shouted, one of them read her rights. She kept screaming. It wasn't supposed to end like this. I'm Katherine. I am. Philip didn't speak. He didn't defend her. He just stared at the arrest papers with wide, blinking eyes. When the officers turned to him, he shot up from his chair. I didn't know she'd go this far, he said quickly. She told me it was temporary. She said she had the paperwork handled. I thought, look, I just wanted to help her keep Leo safe. Coward. They cuffed him anyway. The courtroom was quiet the day of the hearing. The air was sharp with whispered questions and exchanged glances. News had already leaked. Widow fakes death. Lover helps steal identity. Father fights back. Headlines wrote themselves. Leo sat beside me in the front row, small fingers gripping mine. His legs didn't even touch the floor. Katherine was pale, unrecognizable in the gray prison-issued suit, her hair uncurled, her makeup gone. She kept glancing toward us with eyes that begged for mercy. She didn't get any, not from the judge, not from Leo. The moment came. They asked if the child had anything to say. Leo stood. The microphone had to be lowered to his height. I don't want mommy, he said clearly. I want daddy. I want peace. Gasps rippled through the room. Katherine covered her face with her cuffed hands and wept, her shoulders shaking violently. I gave everything up for you, she sobbed. I stood, calm and still. No, I said, you gave everything up for yourself. I turned to leave. Behind me, she screamed again. You can't do this. You loved me. I loved my wife, I replied without turning around. She was my sister. She was your mirror, I said quietly, and you shattered it for nothing. They took her away. The cameras caught her final scream. I faked everything for us. And I gave my final answer. You faked your death to escape love. Now rot in the lie you built. The verdict didn't just break Katherine, it erased her. After her courtroom collapse, her attorneys quietly filed for psychiatric evaluation. The judge approved it without hesitation. The footage of her screaming, pulling at her cuffs, raving about being both dead and alive, made the rounds online before the press could contain it. One headline called her the widow who buried herself. The facility they moved her to was in the outskirts of town, remote, cold, sanitized. She wouldn't see the inside of another courtroom for a long time. She wouldn't see Leo again either. Philip didn't last long after that. He had always been slick, careful, and self-serving, but betrayal exposed cracks no one had seen before. When the board dug into the company's financials during the identity fraud investigation, they found a decade-long trail of quietly rerouted funds and falsified performance reports. Ashley helped bring it to light. He was suspended immediately. The day before his formal indictment, he crashed his car on a winding mountain road. Rain, speed, no seatbelt, no witnesses, no skid marks, just a mangled frame and silence. They ruled it an accident. But everyone in the room, everyone who had seen the look on his face when Katherine was taken away, knew better. He'd tied his fate to a ghost, and ghosts don't forgive. Their enabler, the woman who raised them both to lie, to manipulate, to wear masks, was left with nothing. Katherine's mother had sold her property to pay legal fees and PR teams during the case. But after Katherine was declared mentally unfit and Philip died, no one was left to protect her. She showed up at the courthouse weeks later, hair disheveled, clothes wrinkled, screaming at the press, "They were my daughters, I only ever wanted the best for them." No one listened. She tried to sue for access to Leo's trust fund. She lost. I was granted full custody. No conte. Sent no resistance. Just a stamped document and a quiet nod from the judge. Leo held my hand outside the court and asked, "Are we going home now?" I smiled at him. "We're going somewhere better." 3 months later, I accepted the company's offer to lead their expansion team overseas. It was a position that had been offered before, but I'd always turned it down, for stability, for marriage, for Katherine. Now it felt like a new start. Ashley met me at the airport. She was already relocated, promoted ahead of schedule for her internal audit work. She greeted Leo with a gentle high five and hugged me briefly, formally, but her eyes said more. "New city," she said. "Clean page." We landed in Amsterdam. Our apartment was smaller, older, but warm, full of sunlight and window boxes. Leo painted his walls with stars and stuck rocket decals to the ceiling. At night, I read him stories about constellations and astronauts and told him the sky was wide enough to leave the past behind. He believed me. Some part of me believed it too. The work was steady, the silence was healing. Ashley and I fell into a rhythm: coffee on Mondays, team meetings mid-week, walks with Leo on Saturdays through canals that shimmered with autumn gold. She never pushed, she didn't need to. We built something gentle, uncomplicated, honest, and for the first time in years, I slept without locking the door. Then, one winter morning, it happened. I walked into the building's lobby just before opening hours. Leo was at school, Ashley was upstairs preparing a pitch, and there she was, barefoot, hair tangled, eyes hollow, Katherine, or whatever was left of her. She stood in front of the glass doors, shivering, soaked from rain. The guards didn't know who she was, they were new. They hesitated when she screamed my name. "Jordan!" She slammed her palms on the glass. "Jordan, look at me. It was always you. I did it all. For you, I didn't move." She kept going. "I left because I thought I was doing the right thing. I gave up everything. I killed myself. For you." Security looked to me for direction. I walked past them. Katherine's face lit up with the fragile hope of someone who'd drowned and spotted a hand above the surface. I opened the door. Walked out. She stepped forward, barefoot on the concrete. I didn't say a word. I walked past her, slow, deliberate. She turned to follow. "Say something, please, say something." I stopped, turned halfway, and said, "My wife died the day she chose lies over family." She opened her mouth. I didn't wait. I let her live in that lie, I said quietly. And I buried her in it, twice. Then I walked away. The glass doors closed behind me. And Katherine collapsed to the ground, sobbing into a rain-soaked coat that didn't belong to her anymore.